The morning sun glinted off the polished hood of Ashton Blackwood's custom Lamborghini Aventador as it carved through Manhattan's crowded streets like a shark through shallow waters. The 34-year-old tech mogul checked his Patek Philippe watch. 9:17 a.m. He was late for his own board meeting. But when you're worth $22 billion, the world waits for you. Ashton's phone buzzed with yet another message from Madison. Or was it Addison? He couldn't remember which socialite he'd promised to take to the Hamptons this weekend. It didn't matter. He'd send his assistant with some jewelry and an apology later. Women were interchangeable pieces in the chess game. He played with life-beautiful decorations that enhanced his image and warmed his bed. None had ever touched his heart. Worthless traffic, he muttered, revving the engine and swerving into the turning lane. Parker, find me a faster route, he commanded. Calculating alternative route, his AI assistant announced from the dashboard. Just as the light turned green, a rusted yellow cab cut in front of him from nowhere. Ashton slammed on the brakes, his Italian supercar screeching to a halt. Coffee spilling across his $12,000 Tom Ford suit. What the hell? He roared, slamming his palm against the horn. The cab stopped dead in the intersection. The back door flung open, and out stepped a woman of the kind of woman who typically entered his orbit. She wore a simple floral dress that had seen better days, worn sneakers, and carried a portfolio case stuffed with papers. Her curly auburn hair was hastily tied back, escaping in all directions, and her freckled face was flushed with fury. She marched straight toward his car, seemingly oblivious to the horns blaring around them. Ashton lowered his window, preparing to unleash a tirade that would send this nobody scurrying back to whatever hole she'd crawled from. "Do you own the road, jackass?" she shouted, her voice carrying a slight southern lilt. He blinked momentarily. Stunned into silence? "Some of us have actual jobs and responsibilities we can't be late for." She slapped her hand on the hood of his car. Your compensation for having a tiny she glanced pointedly at his vehicle. Personality doesn't give you the right to endanger lives. Do you have any idea who I am? Ashton finally managed, gesturing to his luxury vehicle. The woman's green eyes narrowed. Someone who confuses net worth with self-worth. Someone who thinks a car that costs more than most people's homes makes you important. She shook her head. "I don't care if you're the King of England. You almost killed me. You cut me off. Your driver cut me off. I don't have a wool," Ashton began, then realized she thought he was in the back seat being chauffeured. Of course. World people didn't drive cars like this themselves. For reasons he couldn't explain, he didn't correct her. A traffic officer approached, whistle blowing. The woman glanced over her shoulder, then back at Ashton. "Great, now I'm definitely late." She reached into her bag and pulled out a business card, flinging it through his open window. "My dress is ruined, and someone's paying for it. People call me." Before he could respond, she rushed back to her cab, which lurched back into traffic and disappeared. Ashton picked up the card. Olivia Bennett, children's book illustrator. It read in simple type with a small watercolor rainbow. In the corner, he snorted, and was about to toss it when he noticed something. Handwritten on the back. "P.S. Your car looks like a compensating midlife crisis on wheels." For the first time in years, Ashton Blackwood of boardrooms, heartbreaker extraordinaire, and one of the 50 richest men on the planet, found himself genuinely smiling. "Sir." Parker's AI voice interrupted. "The board is asking about your ETA." Ashton tucked the card into his pocket. "Tell them to start without me. I have more important business to attend to." Had to find out more about this Olivia Bennett. Olivia Bennett's tiny studio apartment above Mrs. Patel's flower shop smelled perpetually of roses and turpentine. Day had also reeked of frustration. She'd missed her meeting with Wonderland Publishing her, one shot at illustrating a major children's book irresistible, because of some entitled jerk in a ridiculous car. "This is what happens when you try to save on cab fare by sharing," she muttered to Winston, her one-eyed rescue cat who watched sympathetically from atop her drafting table. "The universe punishes your frugality." Her phone rang. Unknown number. Probably another collection agency about her student loans. "Hello," she answered, balancing the phone between her ear and shoulder. while attempting to salvage a watercolor that had blurred when she dropped it, rushing up the stairs. "Is this Olivia Bennett?" a crisp female voice inquired. "Yes, that's me. If this is about the payment plan I already spoke with, this is Veronica Hayes, executive assistant to Ashton Blackwood of Blackwood Technologies." Olivia nearly dropped her paintbrush. "Who?" "Mr. Blackwood was involved in a traffic incident with you this morning. He'd like to make amends." The memory flashed back: the obscenely expensive car, the smug face behind the wheel. Wait, the driver? Wasn't that was actually Mr. Blackwood personally? Yes. Olivia sank onto her paint-splattered stool. Ashton Blackwood. Even she recognized that name. His face appeared regularly on business magazines displayed at grocery checkout lines. Tech wonder kid. The eligible bachelor. The billionaire. She'd called his car, compensating for something. "Mr. Blackwood would like to meet with you tomorrow at noon to discuss restitution for your ruined dress and missed appointment." "I don't need his charity," Olivia said automatically. He anticipated you might say that. He's prepared to offer you a professional opportunity instead. A commission. That caught her attention. After missing the meeting with Wonderland, she needed work desperately. Rent was due in 2 weeks. What kind of commission? He'll explain tomorrow. The car will collect you at 11:30. "I didn't agree to Mr. Blackwood also asked me to inform you that he looked up your portfolio online," said, and I quote, "Anyone who can make dragons look simultaneously terrifying and huggable deserves at least a conversation." Despite herself, Olivia felt a smile forming. She'd worked months on those dragon illustrations. "Fine one meeting, but I'm taking the subway. Not getting into a car," he sends, "as you wish." Blackwood Tower, 57th Street. Noon. The line went dead. Winston meowed questioningly. "Not falling for some rich guy's games," Olivia assured her cat. "I'm just going to hear his offer, that's all." The next day, Olivia stepped off the elevator on the 87th floor of Blackwood Tower, immediately feeling underdressed. She'd worn her only professional outfit in navy blue, a dress she'd found on clearance that she'd saved for interviews and gallery showings. The receptionist, a statuesque blonde who looked like she'd stepped off a runway, eyed her with thinly veiled disdain. "Mr. Blackwood is expecting you." Olivia was led through a series of increasingly impressive spaces until she reached an office larger than her entire apartment building. Floor 2 ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan, making the city look like a toy model below. Ashton Blackwood stood with his back to her, hands clasped behind him as he gazed out at his domain. In the harsh daylight, she could see him more clearly than during their street encounter. Tall with dark hair cut precisely, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her student debt. When he turned, his steel blue eyes assessed her with uncomfortable intensity. "It's Bennett. Thank you for coming. Your assistant made it sound like I had a choice, but we both know I didn't," Olivia replied, clutching her portfolio case like a shield. His mouth quirked. "I always give people choices. It makes them feel better about doing what I want anyway. Philosophy. It's worked for me so far." He gestured to a seating area. "Please, sit." Olivia perched on the edge of a white leather sofa that probably cost more than her car. Your assistant mentioned a commission. Straight to business. That. He sat across from her, his posture relaxed, yet commanding. "I need a children's book illustrated." She blinked. "You what?" "Children's book. My sister has twins turning 5 next month. I want to give them something unique, so commission a famous artist. I'm sure you have Maurice Sendak on speed dial." "He's dead." "Richard Scarry, then. Also dead." "Well, there are plenty of living, established illustrators." Ashton leaned forward. "I don't want established, I want you." The air between them suddenly felt charged. Olivia swallowed hard. "I saw your portfolio," he continued. "Your work has soul. Most children's illustrations are either saccharine garbage or dreary educational tools. Yours tell stories within stories." Herself, Olivia felt warmth spreading across her cheeks. "Thank you, but a commission like this usually takes months. If your niece and nephew's birthday is in a month, I'll pay you triple your usual rate, plus compensation for yesterday's dress and missed appointment. I don't think you understand. Art takes time, regardless of money. Ashton steepled his fingers. What if I propose something else? Work exclusively for me for 1 month. I'll pay you $50,000. Olivia nearly choked. 50,000? For a children's book? Not just the book. They host charity galas, corporate events'll need creative direction, artistic touches. Consider yourself my personal artistic consultant for 30 days. Why me? You could hire an entire agency. Agencies are predictable. His eyes locked with hers. You are not. Olivia felt her chest tighten. $50,000 would clear her student loans with enough left over to afford a real studio space. But something in his intense gaze warned her this wouldn't be just about work. I need time to think about it, Olivia said. Though her heart was already racing at the possibilities $50,000 could unlock. Of course. Ashton reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a contract. Take this with you. Look it. Over. But I need an answer by tomorrow. The weight of the document in her hands felt heavier than paper should. You already had this drawn up? I'm efficient. His smile was predatory. When I want something, I don't waste time. That evening, Olivia spread the contract across her small kitchen table, Winston purring beside her as she read through the legal jargon. The terms were generous, almost suspiciously so. $50,000 for 30 days of artistic consultation and creative services, full creative control over the children's book, access to his penthouse studio space if needed, accommodation expenses covered if late nights required staying in the city. But buried in the fine print was a clause that made her pause. Contractor agrees to be available for all client events and functions as required, including but not limited to evening engagements, weekend commitments, and travel as necessary. It sounded less like an art commission and more like her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Have you decided, A? B. She stared at the message. How had he gotten her personal number? Another text arrived. I took the liberty of researching. Your financial situation? The Wonderland Publishing filled that position this afternoon? With someone else? Olivia's blood ran cold. She quickly Googled Wonderland Publishing's announcements. There it was, excited to welcome acclaimed illustrator Marcus Chen to our new fantasy series project. Her one-shot gone. Her phone rang. Ashton's name appeared on the screen. How did you get my number? She answered without greeting. Does it matter? I assume you've seen the news about Wonderland. Did you have something to do with that? I don't create problems, Miss Bennett. I solve them. You have a choice. Take my offer, or spend the next 6 months scrambling for freelance work while your bills pile up. The bastard had done his homework. Her credit score, her late rent notices, her maxed-out credit card, she probably knew it all. This isn't just about art, is it? She asked quietly. There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, almost vulnerable. I told you, you're not predictable. That's rare in my world. What exactly are you asking of me? 30 days. Be my creative consultant. Help me navigate social situations that require someone with actual soul instead of corporate polish. Show me what the world looks like through eyes that aren't clouded by dollar signs. And in return, $50,000. And maybe we both learn something. Olivia closed her eyes. She thought of her tiny apartment, her struggling art career, the mounting debt that kept her awake at night. Then she thought of his intense blue eyes and the dangerous electricity she'd felt in his office. I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them. No games. No manipulation. If this is business, we keep it professional. Agreed. If I ever feel uncomfortable or want out, the contract is void. No penalties. Another pause. Fair enough. I'll sign tomorrow.
Excellent.
We start immediately. I have a charity gala Thursday night. You'll accompany me. As your artistic consultant? As my date? The line went dead. Winston meowed disapprovingly from his perch on the windowsill. I know, Olivia said, staring at the contract. This is either the best decision I've ever made or the worst, but I'm about to find out which. The next morning, Olivia arrived at Blackwood Tower with the signed contract. Veronica Hayes led her not to Ashton's office, but to a smaller conference room, where a team of stylists, personal shoppers, and what appeared to be an etiquette coach waited. Mr. Blackwood thought you might need some preparation for Thursday evening, Veronica explained with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Preparation for what exactly? The Metropolitan Museum Gala. It's one of the most exclusive events of the season. $5,000 per plate, invitation only. The guest list reads like Forbes' Billionaire Index. Olivia's stomach dropped. I can't possibly fit in at something like that. That's what we're here for, chirped a woman in Chanel who introduced herself as Miranda, the stylist. Mr. Blackwood has provided us with your measurements and a generous budget. We'll have you ready. How does he have my measurements? He's very thorough, Veronica said diplomatically. Over the next 4 hours, Olivia was measured, fitted, styled, and coached. They selected an emerald green gown that cost more than her yearly income, jewelry that required armed transport, and shoes that felt like instruments of torture. The etiquette coach, a stern woman named Margaret, drilled her on proper greetings, conversation topics, and which fork to use for each course. Remember, Margaret said, at events like this, you're not just representing yourself, you're reflecting on Mr. Blackwood. Everything you say and do will be scrutinized. By the time they finished, Olivia felt like she'd been through boot camp. As the team packed up their supplies, Ashton appeared in the doorway. How did it go? He asked, his eyes taking in her appearance with obvious approval. Like being prepared. For battle, Olivia replied. Good analogy. It's exactly what Thursday night will be. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Are you having second thoughts? Looking into those piercing blue eyes, feeling the heat radiating from his proximity, Olivia realized that the gala was the least of her worries. The real danger was the way her pulse quickened whenever he was near, the way she found herself, wondering what it would be like to be more than his artistic consultant. No second thoughts, she lied. I signed a contract. His smile was slow and devastating. Yes, you did. I always collect on my investments. Thursday evening arrived with the force of an impending storm. Olivia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back. The emerald gown transformed her into someone elegant, sophisticated, who belonged in Ashton Blackwood's world. But beneath the silk and diamonds, her heart hammered with nervous energy. The limousine arrived precisely at 7. Ashton stepped out wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped from the pages of a magazine. His eyes met hers. Something shifted in his expression, appreciation, and something deeper that made her breath catch. You look stunning, he said, offering his arm. I feel like I'm wearing a costume. We all wear costumes, Olivia. The trick is choosing one that serves your purpose. The Metropolitan Museum had been transformed into a glittering wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across marble floors where New York's elite mingled with champagne flutes and practiced smiles. Olivia recognized faces from magazine covers and news broadcast tech moguls. Political figures, celebrities whose net worth exceeded small countries' GDP. Remember, Ashton murmured as they entered, his hand warm against the small of her back. You belong here. You're with me. For the first hour, it went better than expected. Ashton introduced her as his artistic consultant, and people seemed genuinely interested in her work. She found herself in animated conversations about creativity, inspiration, and the intersection of art and technology. Several guests even requested her business card. But as the evening progressed, Olivia began to notice something troubling. The women who approached Ashton all had a similar look in their eyes, hungry, calculating, desperate. They spoke to him with practiced charm while their gazes swept over Olivia with thinly veiled hostility. Ashton, darling, purred a blonde socialite named Clarissa during dinner. I haven't seen you since the vineyard opening. You simply must. Call may have the most divine idea for your next acquisition. Olivia watched as woman after woman made their play, each more transparent than the last. The pattern became clear. Ashton Blackwood was the prize, and she was just the latest accessory on his arm. Excuse me, she whispered, rising from their table. I need some air. She found refuge on a secluded balcony overlooking Central Park. The city lights twinkled below like fallen stars, beautiful and distant. The cool night air helped clear her head of champagne and confusion, having second thoughts now. She turned to find Ashton in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Is this what you do?" she asked. "Collect women like you collect art? Display them for a season, then move on to the next acquisition?" He stepped onto the balcony, closing the distance between them. "Is that what you think you are? An acquisition? Sinti. That what your contract says? 30 days of exclusive access to your personal artistic consultant. The contract says whatever you choose to read into it." His voice was low, dangerous. "But if you're questioning my motives, perhaps you should examine your own. My motives are clear. I needed the money." "And that's all?" He moved closer until she could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body, because the woman who stood toto with me in the middle of Manhattan traffic wasn't thinking about money. She was thinking about justice, integrity, things that can't be bought. Don't try to make this about something noble. We both know what this is, do we? His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb tracing along her jawline. "Because I've spent my entire adult life surrounded by people who want something from me.
Money.
Status, connections. But you? You called my car a midlife crisis and walked away." Despite every rational thought screaming warnings, Olivia found herself leaning into his touch. "Ashton, I've been with dozens of women, Olivia. Beautiful, sophisticated, accomplished women. But none of them ever made me laugh. None of them ever challenged me. None of them ever made me want to be better than the sum of my net worth." His thumb traced across her lower lip and she trembled. "This is dangerous," she whispered. "The best things always are." When he kissed her, it was nothing. Like the practiced, calculated moves she'd expected. It was desperate, hungry, real. Her hands fisted in his jacket as she kissed him back, months of loneliness and financial stress melting away under the heat of his mouth. They broke apart, breathing hard. In reality, crashed back like cold water. "This complicates everything," she said. Everything was already complicated. His forehead rested against hers. "The question is, are you brave enough to see where it leads?" Before she could answer, Veronica Hayes appeared in the doorway, her expression strained. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call. Your sister Thea's been in an accident." The color drained from Ashton's face. "What kind of accident?" "Car crash. She's at Mount Sinai. The twins are asking for you." Without hesitation, Ashton turned to Olivia. "Come with me." "Ashton, I shouldn't, please." The word was raw, vulnerable. "I need you there." Looking into his eyes, Olivia saw past the billionaire facade to something much more human underneath. A man terrified of losing the people he loved. A brother who needed support. "Okay," she said simply. "Let's go." As their limousine raced through the city streets toward the hospital, Ashton's hand found hers in the darkness. His fingers intertwined with hers, holding on like she was his anchor in a storm. "Her name is Sarah," he said quietly.
Ouch. She's the
"Only family I have left. After our parents died, I raised her. She was just 16. Something happens to her if the twins don't," Olivia interrupted, squeezing his hand. "Don't go there. We'll deal with whatever we find when we get there." For the first time since she'd known him, Ashton Blackwood looked vulnerable. And Olivia realized that somewhere between signing his contract and this moment, she'd stopped thinking of him as a client and started thinking of him as something much more complicated and dangerous than she'd ever intended. Mount Sinai's emergency room buzzed with controlled chaos. Ashton strode through the automatic doors still in his tuxedo. Olivia hurrying beside him in her evening gown, both of them wildly overdressed for a hospital crisis. The nurse directed them to the surgical waiting area, where two small figures sat huddled together on plastic chairs. Emma and Ethan, age 4, looked impossibly tiny in their matching dinosaur pajamas. Emma clutched a stuffed rabbit while Ethan had tear tracks down his cheeks. The moment they saw Ashton, both children launched themselves at him. "Uncle Ash," Emma sobbed. "Mommy got hurt real bad." Ashton dropped to his knees, gathering both children into his arms. Olivia watched this powerful man transform into someone entirely differential, protective, completely devoted to these two small beings who needed him. "Hey there, monsters," he said softly, using what was obviously a pet name. "I'm here now. Mommy's going to be okay. The doctors won't tell us anything," Ethan whispered. "They said we're too little to understand." Over the children's heads, Ashton's eyes met Olivia's. She saw the fear he was trying to hide, the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. Without thinking, she moved closer. "Hi," she said, crouching beside them. "I'm Olivia. I'm a friend." "Of your uncle's?" Emma peered at her with curious eyes. "You're pretty? Are you Uncle Ash's girlfriend?" "Emma," Ashton warned gently. "It's okay," Olivia said. She pulled out her phone and opened her portfolio app. "I draw pictures for a living. Want to see?" For the next hour, while they waited for news about Sarah, Olivia entertained the twins with her illustrations. She showed them dragons and princesses, talking animals and magical forests. Slowly, their tears dried and small smiles appeared. "Could you draw us?" Ethan asked shyly. "As dragons," Emma added. "We like dragons." Olivia pulled out a sketch pad she always carried and began drawing. Within minutes, she'd captured both children as fierce but friendly dragons, complete with tiny wings and mischievous grins. The twins were delighted, and even Ashton managed a small smile. Dr. Morrison, surgeon, approached their group. "Are you here for Sarah Chen?" "That's my sister," Ashton said, standing quickly. "How is she?" "She's stable. The surgery went well. She has a broken leg, some internal bruising, but she'll make a full recovery. She's asking for you." The relief that flooded Ashton's face was profound. He sank back into his chair, hands shaking slightly. "Can we see Mommy?" Emma asked.
Right.
"A little while, sweetheart," the doctor said kindly. "She needs to rest first." As the doctor walked away, Ashton turned to Olivia. "Thank you," he said simply, "for being here, for helping with them, of course." "No, not of course. You could have stayed at the gala, networked, made connections. Instead, you came to a hospital to help children you'd never met." Emma tugged on Olivia's dress. "Will you come visit us? You could teach me to draw dragons." "Emma, Ms. Bennett is very busy," Ashton said. Actually, Olivia found herself saying, "I'd love to visit. Maybe I could even make that children's book your uncle mentioned. Would you like a story about dragon siblings who go on adventures?" Both children nodded eagerly. 3 hours later, after Sarah had been moved to a private room and the twins had fallen asleep, curled up on either side of their mother, Ashton and Olivia finally left the hospital. Dawn was breaking over the city as they rode back to Manhattan in silence. "Should go home," Olivia said as the limousine approached her neighborhood. "Get some sleep." "Olivia, wait." Ashton's voice stopped her as she reached for the door handle. "There's something I need to tell you. About the contract. About why I really hired you." Her stomach clenched. "What about it?" "I lied. About my motives." He ran his hands through his hair, disheveling the perfect style. "The truth is, after our encounter on the street, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I had my people research your background, your work, your financial situation. When I learned you were struggling, I saw an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" "To spend time with you? To figure out why a woman I'd known for 30 seconds had gotten under my skin in a way no one ever had." He looked at her directly. "The children's book, the artistic consultation, it was all an excuse to keep you close." Olivia stared at him, processing this admission. "So everything was a lie?" "Not everything. My admiration for your work is real. My sister does have twins, and they would love a book illustrated by you. But the primary motivation was selfish. I wanted you in my life, and I used my wealth and power to make that happen." She should have been angry, should have felt manipulated, used. Instead, she found herself asking, "And now, after tonight?" "Now I realize I was an arrogant fool who thought he could orchestrate feelings like a business deal." He leaned back against the leather seat. "You want to know what I saw tonight? I saw you on your knees in a hospital waiting room making 2 scared children smile. I saw you sacrifice your own comfort to support someone you barely knew. I saw the woman I think I'm falling in love with, and I realize she deserves better. The manipulation and contracts. The words hung in the air between them. Olivia felt her heart hammering against her ribs. What are you saying? I'm saying the contract is void if you want it to be. I'll still pay you the full amount you've earned it. But I won't hold you to terms that were dishonest from the beginning. He met her eyes. I'm saying if you want to walk away right now, I'll understand. But if you want to stay, if you want to see where this goes, it has to be your choice. Not because you need the money, not because of any legal obligation, but because you want to be here. Olivia looked at this man who had just laid himself bare, admitting to manipulation while simultaneously offering her complete freedom. She thought about Emma and Ethan, about Sarah, who had smiled even from her hospital bed when she learned Olivia was an illustrator. She thought about the way Ashton had kissed her on the balcony, desperate and real, and nothing like the calculated move she'd expected. I should walk away, she said finally. His face fell. You should. Any sane person would walk away from this mess. They would. But I've never been particularly sane. She smiled, watching hope flicker back to life in his eyes. Okay. And I promised Emma I'd teach her to draw dragons. Olivia, 30 days, Ashton. We'll give it 30 days. It's not because of a contract, not because of money, but because sometimes the most unexpected collisions lead to the most beautiful destinations. When he kissed her this time, it was soft, grateful, full of promise. Outside the limousine windows, New York City sparkled in the morning light, full of infinite possibilities. So, she said when they broke apart about that children's book, I'm thinking two little dragons who learn that the best adventures happen when you're brave enough to let someone unexpected into your life. Ashton smiled, the real smile she was beginning to recognize, one he saved for moments that mattered. I think that sounds like the perfect story. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the largest art gallery in Soho, surrounded by her illustrations blown up to massive proportions on the walls. The children's book Emma and Ethan's Dragon Adventure had become a bestseller, launching her career into the stratosphere. But more importantly, it had introduced the world to two remarkable children and their uncle, who had learned that love couldn't be bought, only earned. Ashton appeared beside her, slipping his arms around her waist from behind. Any regrets? He murmured against her ear. Olivia leaned back into his embrace, watching Emma and Ethan raced through the gallery, pointing excitedly at the pictures that told their story. Just one, she said. What's that? I wish we'd collided sooner. He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. And Olivia knew that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected crashes. The end.